In the last video we talked about how Xenon may have possibly become the infernal king known as Belial. Upon the realization that Xenon had potentially reached godlyhood, I realized that this may have also set us up for a triad much higher than even that of the Supernal Triad, containing Lucifuge, Beelzebub, and the twin gods Satan and Moloch. This has been referred to most commonly as the three veils before Samael or the three veils before Satan, but in the Temple of the Black Flame, they are called the Triad of Chaos. In my videos explaining the Sephiroth and the Qliphoth, I point out that above the light tree and below the dark tree lies the demiurge in both its extreme forms, light and dark. This demiurge is separated into three veils on both sides of the trees. In the light tree, they are known as the Ein Sophar. In the dark tree, they are known as the Sitra Ahra, or the three veils before Samael. To make this as simple as possible, I'll be referring to these three veils as Ein Sophar and the derivatives of it, since it is the same idea, but let's break down what the Ein Sophar is. There are three words to describe the function of each veil. First, we have the Ein Sophar, or limitless light. This is the veil closest to Keter. It is the fabric of consciousness as it exists during the perpetual and eternal emanation, unfolding of physical creation, emanating consciousness. The second veil above the Ein Sophar is called the Ein Sof, or limitless. This is the fabric of consciousness as it existed after the initial intensification of consciousness and the consequent self-realization of I, but before the initiation of emanation. Once a monad existed in the fabric, consciousness became differentiated. The last and outermost veil is called the Ein, or nothingness. This is the fabric of consciousness in its original state of undifferentiated consciousness, or a state of I-less or egoless bliss. Just like a painter, one must start with a blank canvas before they can create anything. On to the Triad of Chaos. These same three veils exist, but in negative form. They are the antithesis of the Ein Sophar. Before I get into what characters may rule over these realms, it is important to understand what these veils are and how they are created in the Draconian path. Talking about the light side of the tree, the Ein Sophar is already one singular demiurge with the power to create. On the dark side, the depths that embark on the Draconian path force their way up the ranks to achieve status in those realms in hopes at the end Moloch will create a universe for them in which they become the light Ein in a new universe, thus starting a new tree of life and knowledge. The first veil correspondent to the Ein Sophar, or limitless light, is known as Chassec. This is the darkness that fuels the tree of knowledge as opposed to its light counterpart, that is limitless light. Chassec is manifested within the Sitariel, who is ruled by Lucifuge, he who shuns light and banishes the illusions established by the false light of the Creator and instead establishes the purifying darkness illuminated by the black light. Sitariel in this way becomes the Qliphoth of hidden darkness, which is the point of entry to the seven lower Qliphoth of the outer tree of Dot. This is the veil that embodies negative creation. Keep this in mind as we move on, as we will place what characters fit which veils. The second realm above Chassec, corresponding to the light Ein Sof, is known as Bohu. This is emptiness. Bohu is ruled specifically by Belial, and you will even see his name instead of Bohu in most cases. Bohu is manifested within the Gagael, which is known for the absence of the demiurgic logos and therefore correlated to silence and emptiness. Here, Beelzebub operates as the hinderer of God, or as the one who silences the word of God and stands for the absence of the cosmic causal law and will to form and create. It is of course no secret I am placing Xenon here, since the last video details what he may have become and why. This is where God is denied. Bohu is emptiness. because its counterpart is endless. Instead, the freedom to use the Dark Demiurge's own will form and create what it wishes. This is indicative of Beelzebub and now Xenon's spatial magic that breaks down the creations of creative light, or mana. The last and furthest veil from the tree and correspondent to the Ein is Tohu. This is also known as Formless Chaos, and is governed by the two crowned heads, the two-headed dragon, the twins of God, the Thaumatin, Satan and Moloch. Satan and Moloch here are the gods of chaos in the essence of the twofold flame of Tohu, and are therefore the most transcendent aspects of the dark gods. In many philosophies, Satan is known for having descended into hell and even further into the realm of the void and chaos. In Paradise Lost, the angels fell, and Beelzebub opens the portal for Satan to enter and become accustomed to the powers of chaos. Beelzebub then creates the layout and the hierarchy of the Tree of Death and opens portals for other pantheons to further inhabit hell. Chaos itself is the force that deconstructs everything it comes into contact with. This is why when we speak of ascending the draconian path, the adept has the choice to meet Satan, who will send them back to the singular god, or meet Moloch, who will use his flames of creation to create a new universe for the adept to become the god of. The Clipot, being the inverse of the light tree, does not naturally have a singular god like the light tree does, but has to have adepts to transcend the draconian path and flip it inside out to become the god of the realm they succeeded their power from. Once the adept reaches the supernal realms, they can transcend from either of the three realms into the 11th step. The adept that transcends within the Satariel becomes the god of the veil, Chassec, and while receiving power from the Satariel, they also fuel it. This is what is meant by flipping the tree inside out. So the adept that transcends within the Gagael becomes the lord of the second veil, Bohu, and the adept who sticks it out long enough to transcend to the last clip of the Thaumael becomes the god of the last veil and supreme dark ruler of chaos, Tohu. Now, to place the characters who may be the current old and or new gods of these realms, let's start with the first veil. The dark counterpart of the Ein Safar, Chassec. This is where creation starts. This is where God says, "Let there be light." This is creation via fiat. This is the will of the Creator. On the dark side is the antithesis. A quick refresher about devils is that in some Kabbalistic philosophies that stem back to ancient Egypt, the devils or archons are known to have created everything that is physical. This is the third dimension meant to trap humans and the soul in the illusory realm within the halls of Amenti. To me, it would seem that the one to rule over Chassec was Zagrid. Zagrid was anomalous as a character. We have never seen a devil manifest the way he did or take the form he took in the world of the living before he obtained a body. In March, I made a thread about Zagrid possibly existing outside of the Tree of Death due to how special and unique his word soul magic was. At that time, I was not nearly as well equipped with the knowledge I have now, so I retracted it in another thread emphasizing that Zagrid was from the Satariel. The reasoning behind this is that the Satariel on paper is described as a pitch-black maze filled with chaotic riddles. We of course see where Zagrid fits in with the Satariel, as he perfectly embodies chaotic riddles. What I didn't know is that it was absolutely possible that Zagrid was connected to the Satariel without actually existing within the tree itself. From what I explained about Chassec, I believe it is possible that Zagrid was in fact an impatient god. There are hints in Zagrid's magic that tell me that he is one of the upper echelon of devils, but is neither supreme or high-ranking. He is a class of his own. I want to bring attention to the Foss description of the highest supreme devils. They are described to be devils of space, time, and gravity. I've mentioned this in many other videos, but if they dictate these things, then this fits the lore that devils are responsible for everything physical and the absolute laws we abide by on a daily basis. Zagreus was able to create anything he spoke into existence. There is one particular use of his magic that struck me. This was when he figured out that Lick's swords could cut through any magic but was weaker against real physical objects. In response to this, Zagreus uses his binding spell, but all we see are black tendrils with no specific nature about them. Zagreus is very descriptive with what he creates, as we saw him create lightning, fire, and iron, but not with this particular binding spell. We also see this black material go from a fluid state to a solid state. It's my belief that this is primordial matter, where everything comes from. This fits as the antithesis of God's "let there be light," but on the opposite spectrum. We also have concepts like black matter in real life, which is said to hold everything in the universe together. So is it possible that Zagreus was on the path of ascension, but tried to skip steps to get to godlyhood? Hopefully we will learn more about his story. With the last video about Xenon and him potentially being Belial, I don't feel as though we need to talk too much about why he fits where he does in the scenario. So for the last and highest realm, Tohu, I have Asta and Liebe sitting at the top. I've said in previous videos how anti-magic is the energy of chaos. I talk explicitly about this in Asta and Liebe in the Temple of the Black Flame. It's a must-watch video, so please do watch it if you'd like to know more about it. As per the description of Tohu being empowered by the twin gods of the Thaumael, this means the soul here is now split into two to reflect the nature of the Thaumael, as well as to bastardize the Ein in its singular unity. The interesting part about this veil is that the Adept has elements of an Adept of Chassec and Bohu. This Adept is able to encompass all spheres within himself without needing its support in any way. This would explain why Asta is void of mana and why Liebe was able to harness the Formless and give it form, anti-magic, otherwise akin to chaos. I pointed out an observation I had made about the silhouette of the devils in the series thus far. Comparing Beelzebub, Lucifero, Belphegor, and Liebe looks less stable in his form. This fits perfectly into the lore of the last veil being the realm of formless chaos. This would also fit one of the very first theories I have had about Asta and or Liebe being Satan. There's of course many more mysteries to unpack before that can become true, but it does seem like we are inching in that direction. Before I go, I want to propose an idea. Let's say the way to godlyhood is what we just went over, and Xenon was the first instance we have seen this with in real time. This would mean that Zagreus was working with Lucifero or Megicula to ascend Xenon with Beelzebub, which means Asta and or Liebe may have dealings with Satan and or Moloch. The most interesting part about reaching the outermost veil is that the Adept may choose to double back and reverse the process in an effort to become a living god, but in order to do so, they relinquish whatever droplets of divinity they had. In Black Clover, mana is divine in nature. Could this explain why Asta and Liebe have no ability to hold magic? I'll leave that for you all to think about. Thank you all for tuning in. If you happen to like the content, do consider subbing to the channel for more content like this and more on the way. Tell me your thoughts about this in the comment section below or on Twitter. Thank you so much for your support, and I will see you all in the next video. This has been Jack Oates to Go. You either know or you don't.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the difference? Yeah, bruh, see I would lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people would fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything, they get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Bounce.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Bounce.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Bounce.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Bounce.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Bounce.
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.